The emergency bay of the human frigate Endeavour smelled of antiseptic and ozone. Michael knelt beside the medical cot where Alice lay face down. Her crystalline skin fractured along her spine like a shattered window pane. Purple ichor seeped from the wound, pooling on the sterile white sheets. "Hold still," Michael muttered, his calloused fingers hovering over the injury. The Jarek woman hissed, her translucent body shimmering with pain. "Careful, brute. You'll break my back," Alice shouted, her voice resonating with that musical quality all Jarek possessed. "Your kind doesn't understand delicate. Your kind," Michael interrupted, reaching for the dermal regenerator. "Told us we were too fragile to fight the Krell, said our bones were made of wet paper." He pressed the device against her wound, and she shrieked. The battle had been brutal. 3 hours ago, the Krell dreadnought had ambushed their joint fleet near the Teraxia Nebula. The elegant Jarek cruisers, built like floating crystal palaces, had shattered under the first volley. Their technology was superior, their weapons precise and devastating. But their bodies, their beautiful, translucent bodies, were as fragile as spun glass. Humans were different. Michael had watched his crewmates take hits that would vaporize a Jarek warrior. Plasma burns, shrapnel wounds, concussive blasts that rattled teeth and cracked ribs. They screamed, they bled, but they kept fighting. They tied tourniquets with torn uniforms, sealed breaches with emergency foam, and dragged wounded comrades to safety while return fire scorched the air around them. Alice had seen it too. She'd watched Michael take a Krell energy blade to the shoulder, cauterize it with his own plasma torch, and return to manning the weapon's console. No elegance, no grace, just brutal, stubborn persistence. "Your people are insane," she had whispered when he'd pulled her from the wreckage of her fighter. Now, on his medical cot, she flinched as he worked. The regenerator hummed, knitting her crystalline flesh together with agonizing slowness. Jarek medicine was a delicate art, performed by specialists with years of training. Human medicine was a battlefield improvisation, learned in the chaos of survival. The Krell physiology runs at lower temperatures than ours, Michael explained as he worked, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. "Your regenerators are calibrated for your biology. Too cold for you." He adjusted the device's settings. "I'm compensating. You're guessing," Alice spat, though her tone had lost some of its venom. "Welcome to human medicine." He grinned despite himself. "Guess, test, adapt. It's what we do." She fell silent, her body shuddering with each pass of the regenerator. Through the viewport, stars wheeled past, cold and indifferent. Somewhere out there, the Krell were regrouping. Somewhere out there, the remnants of the fleet were counting their dead. The Jarek had entered this war as humanity's reluctant allies. They possessed technology that could crack planets, weapons that bent space itself. But they'd never faced an enemy like the Krell, ruthless, adaptive, willing to sacrifice entire fleets for strategic advantage. The elegant Jarek commanders, trained in civilized warfare, had been overwhelmed by the sheer barbarism of it. Humans understood barbarism. "Why do you do this?" Alice asked suddenly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Fight so hard? Your species has only been spacefaring for 2 centuries. You could retreat to your systems, hide behind your defenses." Michael paused, considering. The regenerator whined in his grip. "Because someone has to. That's not an answer. It's the only answer." He resumed his work, his jaw set. "We've spent our entire history fighting. Ourselves, our planet, diseases, each other. We've survived ice ages and supervolcanoes, plagues that killed half our population, wars that turned continents to ash." He glanced at her reflection in the polished metal cabinet beside them. "We're good at surviving. Surviving isn't living," Alice said softly. "No," Michael agreed. "But you can't live if you don't survive first." The regenerator chimed, signaling completion. Michael sat back, exhaustion washing over him. The wound had sealed, though a faint crystalline scar remained, a permanent reminder etched into her otherwise flawless skin. Alice pushed herself up slowly, testing her movement. Pain flickered across her features, but she didn't cry out. She turned to face Michael, her luminous eyes meeting his. "You saved my life," she said. "You pulled me from my fighter, carried me through enemy fire, and repaired damage that would have killed me in minutes." She touched the scar on her back, feeling its rough texture. "Your hands are clumsy, your methods crude, But you saved me, Michael shrugged, suddenly uncomfortable. Just doing my job. No, Alice's voice carried certainty now. I've studied your species since we made first contact. I've read your histories, watched your entertainment, analyzed your psychology. I thought I understood you. She stepped closer. I was wrong. What do you mean? We Jarek pride ourselves on elegance, precision, perfection. We build beautiful ships, create exquisite art, wage civilized wars. Her laugh was bitter. But when the Krell came, our perfection shattered. Literally, she gestured to her scar. You humans, you're not elegant. You're messy and chaotic, and you improvise everything. But you endure. You adapt. You survive. The ship shuddered as the engines engaged, preparing for the next jump. Somewhere on the bridge, Captain Rodriguez was coordinating with what remained of the Jarek fleet, planning the next engagement, counting the cost. The Krell think they can break us through attrition, Michael said quietly. Wear us down until we surrender, can they? He met her gaze, and something fierce burned in his eyes. They can try. Alice smiled, a strange expression on her translucent features. Then perhaps there's hope for us all. She extended her hand in the human gesture of friendship. Thank you, Brute. Michael clasped her hand carefully, mindful of her fragile bones. You're welcome, Princess. Outside, the stars beckoned. Inside, two species, one elegant, one crude, stood together against the darkness. The war was far from over. The Krell would return, and when they did, they would find humanity waiting. Stubborn, brutal, and utterly unwilling to break. Because that's what humans did best. They endured.